Ho, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past. And it's possible that you have Santa's beard in your pants. Manscaped just launched a new product, including their all-new Ultra Premium Body Wash and 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. So get yourself, your dad, your brother, maybe your mother, and friends the best gift of them all. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 in his beautiful bag. Oh, this is underwear. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Hathaway at manscaped.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Coming Clean. I'm Paige Hathaway, and today we are going to talk about finding happiness, like truly finding happiness. For almost all people, I guess you could say, because I feel that everyone feels this way, happiness is the ultimate goal in life. I know that for me personally, a lot of the times, like, I don't even think you're supposed to be telling your birthday wish, but like most of the time, my wish for myself is to be happy. Like, I just want to be happy. That is my lifelong goal. But we also want things like a new job, a new car, a bigger house. We want to win things like the lottery because ultimately we think that these things are going to make us happier. However, it can also be a very fleeting thing, especially when or if we become dependent on tangible items to make us happy. Happiness is relative. And often the second we get that thing that we think is going to make us happy, we already are thinking about what is the next thing that we need to make ourselves happy. It's kind of like it's like a revolving door. But in this episode, I just wanted to talk to y'all about what true happiness is, or what I think it is, and how to find it. All right, y'all, let's dive in. One of my favorite sayings is that we can only control ourselves, or you can call it a mantra. However, I feel like happiness is a funny thing. We only really are in control of about 40% of our own happiness. So according to a study that I saw, like psychologists say 60%, which I find is rather interesting, but 60% of happiness is actually determined by recent events or people in our lives. So the situations that we find ourselves in and people that we surround ourselves with play an important role in our overall happiness. It's also very interesting to know that it is possible for some people just to be born happier than other people. I'm sure that you might have met someone or seen someone or know someone that you're like, that person is just happy all the time. Maybe they're just born happier. It can be done. The good news is attitude and behavior can directly impact our daily happiness levels. But we'll talk more about that later on in the episode. So let me just say this, because I feel like happiness is way different than meaningfulness. Although those two things kind of do directly impact each other, I feel that happiness is something that can last for more of like a short period of time. Like, for example, like you can feel happy and then you can feel sad, or you can feel happy and then you can feel overwhelmed. So that happiness can be more short term. while meaningfulness is more long lasting. Happiness can also be considered inner peace, which we can achieve both through mindfulness. So we have happiness, meaningfulness, and mindfulness. Happiness, meaningfulness, mindfulness. So mindfulness at its basic level is the idea that happiness does not come always from an achievement or like pursuing like a desire, like you got a new job or a new house or whatever. But it's more so living in the moment and just being content with that. In essence, it is kind of like an ever more like positive state of mind. So it's mindfulness. So we know happiness can be improved by like who you hang out with, different like special occasions that are going on in your life. Like for example, like if you're getting married, then obviously like your happiness is probably boosted. If you're graduating college, you might be happy. You're getting a promotion. Obviously, it's going to improve your happiness. You're having a baby. You're going to be so happy. Hopefully, you're going on vacation. You have something to look forward to, so you're probably happy. Like all of these things can increase your happiness. But again, remember, happiness, like I said before, can be short term. Like what happens after you have your baby? I don't know, and you get home and you're like, whoa, this is like a lot of work. Not that you're not happy, but I'm just saying that happiness can be more of a short-term thing. Also, the better quality of our relationships with like other people, that can make us happier. So with that being said, we tend to, not only like kind of be who we hang out with, but our happiness kind of depends on like who we hang out with, like what their energy is like, what they're doing with themselves. Like all of this can ultimately affect our happiness. When I was like kind of like researching everything, I saw that there was a study conducted and it found that lonely people tend to be less happy and they actually have poor health. So high quality people with like social lives and lots of friends and, they actually generally tend to be happier and they generally tend to be healthier. So what I've gathered from like all of this research is that the number of like relationships that you have doesn't necessarily matter, but it's more of like the quality of relationship that you have. Like, does your friendships lack depth? Are they low quality? All these things play a huge factor. So reliability, trust, closeness, that all play a huge role in determining someone's happiness. So are you someone who doesn't have a lot of close, reliable friends? If this is you and you find yourself like not as happy as you feel like you should be, then this could possibly be affecting your health and your happiness. Something else that I found that was like super interesting is happiness tends to make us more successful. Because I saw another study was conducted and I found that in this study that people that were happy on average were more productive than people that were unhappy. So I don't know. I just find it so crazy that happiness just plays such a huge factor in our life, whether it be with relationships or work or all of the things adding up. It said in that study, it also said that 75% of success in the workplace depends on 3 different things. So you have behavioral, you have connections, and you have stress management. So with all the things that I was, looking at, I came to the conclusion of sharing 3 ways that I kind of found over and over and over again to increase your overall happiness. So number 1 is savor your daily experiences. Number 2 is get involved with like a meaningful volunteer activity. I know that when I used to live in LA, I was super involved with my friend Naomi in a battered women's shelter. I didn't like talk about it much because I just didn't feel like I wanted to like boast about like, going into a women's shelter and talking to them. But also Jason and I just recently signed up for Big Brother, Big Sister program here in Dallas. But I don't know, volunteering is just definitely something I would recommend. It does boost your happiness all around because you're helping other people, and that in turn is just making you a happier person. Number 3 is find a more optimistic point of view. Number 4 is practice gratitude by simply writing down 3 to 5 things daily, like in the mornings, like when you wake up or before you go to sleep, of what you're grateful for. And number 5 is meditate or take time out of your day for yourself. And it could be something as simple as like having a bubble bath at night, reading a book, going for a walk with your headphones in, and just having you with nature. I mean, nature plays like a huge role in boosting happiness. There's tons of research about that. So yeah, just meditate or finding time for yourself. But all in all, I truly, truly, truly believe that happiness is more of a habit, and you can learn that habit by practicing it more. So we can lead a more meaningful, fulfilled life by just putting this habit into practice. So we've learned today that some people are born and wired happier than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't feel happy all the time, because you definitely can. You might just have to work a little bit harder at it because happiness just doesn't come like natural or simple to you. But again, happiness is a habit. So throughout my research for this podcast, I found numerous theories. And there's so many different ways to kind of like search for happiness, but it all kind of depends on you and the person you are, your spirituality, your temperament, your personality, your like thought process. Happiness doesn't have to cost money. And trust me when I tell you this, like money does not buy happiness. If anything, money just brings more and more problems. In fact, people are generally happier for longer when they're just like not pursuing like tangible things. Like the newest car, the newest house, because, there's always going to be newer and better year after year, day after day. And you're just going to always be like searching for something else to make you happy. And that's not happiness. You can experience happiness in so many ways. So far, the only measure of happiness is in feeling. So like, do you feel happy? And I honestly think that we are responsible for being happy with ourselves, and we are responsible about our feelings, like whether or not we are happy. And if we aren't happy, like figuring out how we can change that. So to kind of wrap this up, things that we've discovered throughout this episode, I just kind of wanted to like run through them because it's just like a lot of information. So positive emotions are linked to better health and longevity in your life. Positive feelings, like feeling happy, it actually increases resilience and honestly, the ability to just make ourselves mentally stronger. Like if we're happier, we're probably mentally stronger. We probably like have resilience to help better manage our stress that we come about day to day, and just to bounce back from the setbacks or the adversity that we may face. For example, I wanted to point this out because I thought this was like so interesting. One study that I found read that happier people tend to have lower levels of stress. And obviously there's like tons of benefits to lower levels of stress over time, and even like causing on like your mental health. So take that into consideration. Also, people who report being in a more positive state are likely to have healthier behaviors. So if you're happier, you're going to probably like have a better diet. You're going to eat more fruits and vegetables. You're probably going to, engage in regular exercise. Being happy may help you get sick less often, and ultimately having, like a healthier mental state. I know that, it helps increase your immunity because there's like less stress on the body, which right now with everything going on in the world, right there, it tells you that being a happier person, you're less likely to get sick. And, again, with everything going on in the world, we could use everyone being a bit more happier. Obviously, though, I know that we can't always all the time be happy, but we can definitely work towards happiness all the time. Like even finding small moments of happiness can be beneficial to our overall health. I heard this saying before from Shakespeare. It says, "Expectations is the root of all heartache." And I just love that quote because oftentimes expectations can literally ruin our happiness because it can cause unnecessary pressure and our mind to wander, and our expectations when they're not met just to cause us to be unhappy. Because we have to remember at the end of the day, we are not in control of everything. So sometimes it's just best that we learn how to let go of things. Just take a deep breath and just let it go. Because sometimes we think that what will bring us happiness oftentimes doesn't bring us happiness. And then we are just left with this emotional fail because our expectations were so severe and then they weren't met. It's okay at the end of the day to have expectations, but we just really need to know how to manage them properly. To sort of wrap up today's episode, I did want to end with 5 things. And the 5 things that I wanted to end on today were 5 tips that I personally find to be helpful when wanting to find happiness and just to remain happier with ourselves throughout our lives. Okay, so number 1, and this is first and foremost, we need to just all define in our own way what happiness means to us. What does happiness mean to you? We all know what happiness feels like because I know that we've all at some moment in our life been happy. We have felt happiness. We know what the feeling of happiness feels like. There is no wrong way to be happy, obviously, unless you are harming someone to achieve your happiness. Then obviously this is not what I'm talking about. And definitely don't do that to be happy. But define what happiness looks and feels like to you and chase that. Number 2 is maintain good relationships. We are not on a deserted island. So with that being said, we need to have good, solid relationships to be our happiest. Don't forget what we learned earlier in this episode, that 60% of our happiness comes from our surroundings, comes from people that we are surrounding ourselves with. So surround yourself with good people. Number 3 is we need to surround ourselves with happy. So let me repeat that. We need to surround ourselves with happy. As a follow-up kind of on my last point, our surroundings make a huge impact. So how's your environment? Your work environment, because you spend most of your day probably working. Are you happy with the people that are at your work? Do you like your work environment? Because again, we are more productive and happier in a good work environment. Another thing you can ask yourself is, how is your home environment? We are generally more rested and happier in a good home environment. And one more thing you should ask yourself is just like, remember how we spoke about being dependent on positive life events to kind of shape our happiness. So what kind of like positive events do you have going on in your life? For example, maybe you should plan a trip and then you have like a trip to look forward to. And that's something that could, help sustain your happiness for a period of time until your trip. Okay, let's move into number 4. And that is simply to just practice happiness. We can't be good at everything, and perhaps this might not even come easy to you, but we need to make an effort to make happiness a habit and make happiness a priority. Because ultimately, again, we want to be happy, right? So whether that's meditating, keeping a gratitude journal, calling a friend or a family member, volunteering, or just simply like taking and enjoying a moment as that moment happens and really just soaking it all in. Whatever you need to do daily that helps you remember how to be happy or that naturally just makes you happy, hold on to that and do more of that. Last but not least is number 5, and that is remember to enjoy the moment. I know that no matter how hard we try, we cannot hold on to a happy feeling forever. We're going to have emotions. Life is going to happen. Things are going to happen, and we're going to lose that happiness feeling. But we have to take what we can get and enjoy it while we can. Ultimately, like I truly feel that everyone wants to be happy, but I know, and trust me, I know that sometimes it is easier said than done. And although like I wish I could, but I can't give you like the magic formula to happiness because I don't know it and I'm still trying to figure out myself. I practice happiness as a habit on the daily. But we can all work to find what our own happiness is for ourselves. The search for happiness, I truly feel like, is like a lifelong journey. And everyone is going to experience ups and downs and setbacks and hardship because that is life. We are going to feel all the emotions from sad to happy to stressed to eager to excited. But at the end of the day, what life is all about, when everything is all said and done, happiness is the greatest gift. And we truly, I truly believe that we can all be happy depending on whatever that happiness is to you. It is and should be our main motivation for living, to truly be happy. Although sometimes I feel like we can get a little lost in what makes us happy, again, with those tangible things, but it is possible, I feel like, to always go back to the basics and always get happiness back. All right, you guys, I feel like it got a little heavy at the end, but that is all for me today. Go to Apple Podcast. Make sure you rate and review this episode and my podcast in general. There's so many good episodes on there. And if you're into, watching the podcast on YouTube, if you want to set it up while you're cleaning your house or doing cardio, you guys can watch everything on YouTube on my channel. I love you guys. And remember, happiness is a habit. Let's practice it every single day. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.